Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing today? It's Friday, um, February 21st. It's 12 p.m. And we are live for another Studio One Pro tutorial. Yeah, so I'm going to just do a quick check to make sure that we got everything is working. We're getting volume because all that good stuff is important, guys. So we're going to check that real quick. Guys are tuning in and you can hear me, just drop a comment or let me know in the comments. I'm going to check on my phone to see if we're live here. So you guys can hear me, that's for sure. Let's see if we got music. You are able to hear the music. All right. Looks like we can hear music. So we are good. We're good. Looks like we are good. Go ahead and turn that off for a second. Go back to the start page. So welcome to episode 2 of the Studio One Pro 7 for Beginners course, where we're going to go everything from A to Z Studio One, so that you can get up and running. And hopefully, if there's any questions that you have, that one of these videos will be able to answer one of those questions. So, yeah, that's what's going on here. So it looks like we might have a viewer on Rumble and local. I may be the viewer on YouTube, so we're going to wait a second before we get too deep into this. As you recall, last week we went over the start page, all the functionality of the start page, and we did a little bit of the project page and went over the toolbars. We went over the browser area. If it'll pop up here, open up. We went over the browser area in each one of these tabs and what they all represent, what they do. And we did a brief walkover on the bottom section here and some of the other areas, which we're going to go and dive a little bit deeper into today, as well as a couple of things I might have missed on the start page last week that I want to definitely jump into. So, yep. That's what we're going to be getting into today. We're going to continue to progress through Studio One and learn all about Studio One and the different functionalities that it has. So one of the big things I know a lot of you are probably going to be asking is, hey, I have a MIDI keyboard or I have a MIDI drum pad, and how do I set that up and get that going? Because maybe it has been difficult for you and other software to set up and get linked up so that you can trigger all the sounds that are within Studio One. So we're gonna go over that real quick, is setting up your MIDI instruments and getting those ready to use within Studio One. So yeah, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. All right. So, if you jump in and you miss out on something, you can always rewind this and catch up later on while we're live. And this video will also be posted in a folder with all the other course material for Studio One, the different tutorials and stuff like that. So you can always go back to reference it later on in case you missed the beginning of this video. So welcome to the Area 67 podcast. All right. So, first of all, we're going to get into setting up a MIDI device. So I have a couple of MIDI devices in my studio. Break one out back here real quick. So I have this Atom by PreSonus. It's a drum pad, triggers the drums within Studio One. And it also has some other functionality like start and stop and tempo tap and stuff like that. So it's USB connected. So it's just a straight USB plug-in. Most of us just have a basic keyboard, might have a small, small keyboard. I have a 48 key keyboard, a complete control 48 key keyboard. or actually, I think it's 48 keys. I could be wrong. It could be 61. I don't know right now. But yeah, that's what I'm working with. So I'm going to show you how you would set that up. So if you come down here to the middle of the Studio One start page, which you can see my cursor, everybody can see the cursor. Great. That's awesome. And if we come down here to the section where it looks like your interface, mine says Rodecaster Pro Main Multi-Track. That's what I'm using to stream this podcast out to you guys. So that's what I'm using for this, but that's not my interface that I record on. I usually use a universal audio and a Focusrite. I've got those two kind of connected together so that I have as many inputs and outputs as possible. We'll get into that deeper later on, though. But if you want to set up a MIDI instrument, such as a small MIDI keyboard or a larger MIDI keyboard, what you want to do is come down here, and right below here where it says configure audio devices, it says configure external devices. That's what we want. External devices is for all your MIDI external instruments. So that's what we're going to click on right here. And you'll see that we are in external devices, and it's opened up this preferences. You're in preferences right now. So you can go to the general tab, locations, audio setup, external devices, and advanced. So this is all located in preferences. So this is not the only way to get to it from down here from the main page. You can also get it from the preference tab up here or a couple other places. So that's the beauty of Studio One. They make it really simple so it doesn't really disturb your workflow too much if you need to go and set something up. But all right. Assuming that I don't have a keyboard set up, and mine is the complete control right here, we would hit add, and it opens up you can see it, a pop-up menu, and it's going to give you a list of manufacturers here on the left. And each manufacturer has a number of devices that they make, and they've pretty much got these all set up. So all you got to do is select it and click on it and load it up. A lot of people use the Akai MPK Mini. I used to have one, so I think that's why this is set up at the beginning. But if we were to say we have the Akai MPK Mini, we would open up this window. We go to add devices, obviously, and then we go to Akai, the Akai folder, and then we scroll down here to find our device. And here we go, it's the MPK Mini. We'd click on that, and it would populate this. Say if we had an MPD26, you'd populate that, and it would give you an icon showing the device that you're using. We're using the 16. There you go. 18, 24, 26. This is one of their MPK 49, 61, or 88 key keyboards. This is also like the generic one for any Akai keyboard. But you would select this, and it would populate this. If you want to rename the device, if you have a couple of these, you can also rename them. And here, you really don't have to do much. Receive from, you're going to want to select the MPK Mini from receive from, and send to. You're going to want to select that as well. These other channels, options, split channels, that's to split your keyboard into different sections. You can do that. This can be set as your default instrument. Enable MPE, send MIDI clock information, use MIDI clock start, and send MIDI clock time code. So a bunch of options here for every one of your keyboards out here. So you would hit OK, and it would populate down here, and it would be ready to use and select as a MIDI keyboard option whenever you're using the internal sounds within Studio One. We're going to open up mine real quick just so you can kind of see what that looks like. Mine says native instruments, complete, manufacturer's native instruments, device name right here, complete control AM. See, we have all the MIDI channels selected. We've got complete control AS61, so mine's a 61 key. So I'm selecting that for the receive from and the send to. So you're sending the keys from it, and say you had a MIDI device that is has sounds in it. Um, you can receive that MIDI information from Studio One back to your keyboard so that it can trigger those sounds. So a number of options here. And again, you have some filters if you have want aftertouch, program change, pitch bend controllers, stuff like that. You can add this, but this is just your basic setup right here. Okay, so that's basically in a nutshell how you would set up your MIDI devices. You'd come down here to external devices, click on that, hit your add button, find your device in the manufacturer's list here. If you don't see your device listed here, you can just click on new keyboard or new instrument. It'll pop up a new one. You can put in the manufacturer's name. You can type in all that information. And as long as it's connected and your computer recognizes it, it should pop up here in this drop down box. And you can see that I have a number of MIDI devices already connected that I can select to be controlled. And easy as pie, easy as one, two, three. A lot of different software manufacturers, it's not that easy. It takes a little bit of time. It could take 10, 15, 20 minutes to get something set up. So beautiful, beautiful thing about Studio One. I love it. Looks like we have another person watching and YouTube. I appreciate it. Appreciate you following us and watching us live. We're streaming live on Rumble, Locals, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. Kick, Kick, for the first time. So welcome if you're tuning in. So we just basically went over the how to set up an external MIDI device. You would do this down here at the bottom. Click on this. It's your add button. Again, pick your device and just add it. And we'll open up a new project window just so we can see how that would be selected. So here's a new project window. I'm going to go over here to instruments. And we're going to pick a PreSonus instrument. I'm a very big proponent of Presence. It's one of my favorite. The cool thing about these in Studio One is they all have little arrows next to them, which has drop-down menus. When you select that, and it shows you all the instruments and different sounds. So you could actually go in here, and if I open up Presence, you'll see that Presence has artist instruments, bass, brass, Deep Flight 1, pianos and organs, guitar, keyboards, organs, percussion, piano, Rob Lee signature set, strings, session, vintage keys, Voodoo 1 synth, vocals or Vox, and winds. And within each one of these folders, you'll have a number of instruments or sounds depending on what the folder is. So if we were to go into, say, one of my favorite is the E pianos, because I love the Rhodes piano, electric piano, but I can't afford a Rhodes electric piano. So thankfully they have a number of sampled sounds that give you those sounds that you're looking for. I go over to keyboards. Yes, it's under keyboards right here. Go to Rhodes. So I can pick the sound directly from here and then drag it in based upon the sound, and it will drag in Presence, or I can just drag in Presence and pick the sound within Presence inside the project window. Today, we're going to go ahead and pick the sound first. So I'm going to pick the sound, the Rhodes Full Vintage Effects. I'm just going to grab that and drag it to the blank screen, drop it on the screen. Let Studio One do its thing. So Studio One just set up the track, a MIDI track. It loaded the instrument and the instrument with the sounds. So if you want to test to see if the sounds, if it's working, you can hit this or click on your keyboard, and you can see that nothing is happening, right? Because we haven't selected the keyboard yet, so it's not going to trigger the sounds. So the next thing we need to do is select our MIDI instrument, one that we've just set up. So why not go up here to the top up here, and you're going to see here's the instrument and this Presence, and then you're going to see the sound that we selected. And if we click on it, it opens up that drop down box and basically replicates what you saw over here in the browser window. And then right over here where it says none, and if you hover over it, it says direct input. Now if you hover over a lot of these buttons and knobs, it will tell you what the functionality is of it, or at least the name of it. And if you have the question mark on right here, which we'll go ahead and put on, it should give you a little bit more information on some of these buttons and stuff like that. But so we're going to select the keyboard that's going to trigger these sounds. So we can click on all inputs. So if you have a number of MIDI keyboards or MIDI devices, say a drum machine, drum pad, and a couple of different keyboards, if you can select specific ones for specific sounds, or you can just hit all inputs, and it doesn't matter what MIDI device you click on that you touch, it will trigger the sounds. For my case, I'm going to click on the complete control because that's the keyboard that we are connected to. So now that it's connected, when I hit my keyboard, you should see whatever key that I'm popping up. I'm going to try for C2. There we go. C2. So you can see that now it's connected. You can see that the interface, the visual interface within Studio One for presence, which has a keyboard down here, reflects which keys that I'm actually pressing. So if I press a chord, it's going to show it. So we're not hearing any output because I haven't selected a output yet for my device. Let me just go over here to the main output right here. And you can see where it says none. That means because I haven't selected an output, I'm just going to select output 1 and 2. And then close that window out. We're going to close this browser window out so we have a better screen real estate there, right? Screen real estate. And now when I hit it, you should be able to hear it. All right. Got that beautiful Rhodes tone, a little wobble in there, which you can change the rate of the wobble effect. You can change a lot of the details of the sound right here in this interface. So this synth is reproducing the Rhodes sound. If I play a chord, you can hear that chord being played. You're seeing it visually down here, so you don't actually have to look at your keyboard when you're playing. I'm just going to hold this down so you can kind of hear some of the functions. So if I go over here, it's got this LFO and the rate. Anytime you see something in blue, that means it's activated. So we know that this one is active. So if I click it and move the rate down. So it's giving us a little bit more of that sine wave that we're using. You're hearing a little bit more of that, right? If I turn the filter on just by clicking the name, now it's in blue. You can add some drive to it. Give it a little grit or take that away. Give it a little punch. Or a little more resonance. And then you can change the filter slope. Like this one is a 24 dB ladder, so it's going to slope and filter down 24 dB. This one's going to give you a 24 dB to 0, so it looks like it goes to a 0 function. And then ladders down. This one ladders down more gradually at 12 dB. And you can turn each one of these on and off. You have modulation. You can add a chorus, a little flange. Hear that flange going back and forth. A little phaser effect. Or we can just turn it off. Maybe add a little reverb to it. And once you dialed in the sound that you like, then you're ready to record. So as you can tell, the track has already been set up for us by Studio One. It's already selected the instrument, and you can always distinguish what kind of track it is by this little icon right here. This icon is telling me that it's a MIDI instrument because it's a little MIDI keyboard icon. If it was a little waveform, then that would tell me that it's an audio track, that it's something like a microphone or a guitar or something mic'd up or plugged in that is actual audio and not a MIDI device or MIDI sounds that are being triggered and used through software. So that's a big distinction right there. The different functions right now, it's selected to record. So the track is record enabled is what we would call that. If I deactivate it, now we are not record enabled. We're not ready to record. So you can have a number of tracks and say you have different microphones on different tracks or different singers or what may be the case. You can decide which tracks you want to be recorded on or which tracks you just want to hear back. So that's the beautiful thing about multi-track recording. If this is your first time using multi-track recording, this is why we do it. Because we have individual control over every element, every instrument, every vocal, every drum, everything, which contributes to a better overall recording and mix of that recording so we can optimize the best sound possible. So if we look over here on track 1, which is going to hold our MIDI instrument, if we click on that little keyboard, it lights up orange and it will show you what instrument that is attached to it and all the parameters. If we click on it again, it hides it. So it's just basically hiding the instrument that's being used on the track. It doesn't mean because you're not visually able to see it that it's not working. It's just you don't have to look at it. All right. So just a quick rundown on some of the buttons that are here, and I'm going to stretch this a little bit so it's we get all of what's there. So this is what a basic MIDI track looks like. We've got a mute button so you don't hear the track. We got a solo button if you want to solo the track. We got a record enable button if you want to record to this track, and we have a listen button if you want to hear the input of the track, mostly for like guitars and stuff like that. If you're adding internal effects and stuff like this would be great. So this is just a monitoring. Some studios aren't able to hear it like this, and they have to hit the monitor button in order to hear the playback of the instrument. So that's just, if you're not hearing it in your studio, but you're seeing that it's your keyboard is activating the sound, maybe turn that on and that will help you. The monitor will help you hear it. Okay. All right. And then below that, it shows you the instrument, presence, all inputs, edit group. There's no edit groups. This was instrument input. Okay. And then what layers? The Rhodes instrument sample. Now, if we want to record this, we want to record enable the track. And then we're going to come down here to the bottom of the screen. You'll see where my cursor is down here. And you'll see another record enable button. Nothing is going to record to the screen. If I hit play and I'm playing, nothing's being recorded there. So when I hit playback, nothing. Right. So you have to record enable the project, and it will record any of the tracks that are enabled to record at the time. So this is where you record enable that, and it's automatically starting to record. I hit a couple of chords here. All right. And we can hit stop record. And now you can visually see actually something was recorded there, right? So we're just going to peel this back and drag this to the beginning like such. And we're going to listen back. Simple. Super, 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 super easy to record MIDI instruments within Studio One. It's that easy. All I did was select the sound I wanted. I dragged this sound into the empty project page. It created its own MIDI track for me. It loaded it with the instrument that I selected. It loaded the instrument with the sounds that I selected. And I was immediately able to hear it once I selected the MIDI instrument that was triggering the sounds. If I hit none, you'll see that nothing's happening, right? Because there's no keyboard selected to trigger the actual internally built sound. So let's go back to complete control AM. There we go. So yeah, that's how you would set up a MIDI track within Studio One. Super, super easy, super quick. You don't have to waste a lot of time or energy. So say I like this one and I want to add something else to it. I want to add some bass to it, like a little upright bass. How about that? So I can always just drag that over and it's going to create another track that's going to record enable. All I have to do is go over here and select what keyboard I want. Now, here's a key. This could this is something that some people come across that they don't realize is happening. We have 2 MIDI instruments on the track on the project page right now, right? And we have one MIDI instrument that's controlling the Rhodes, which was this one, right? But it's also controlling the bass. If I get over there, you hear the bass sound? Excuse me. But you can also hear the Rhodes behind it. So what we need to do first is we need to go back over to the Rhodes and click on that one, open that one up. And in case you weren't aware, it shows both of them here. Okay, so there's presence 1 and then presence 2. So every MIDI instrument will have tabs all the way across the top, depending on how many instruments you have open in your project. So you don't have to actually go to the track that the MIDI instrument is on and then highlight the track and then open that up. You can just find it right here. So we're wanting presence 1, which would be for track 1, and you'll see that highlighted orange. If we click on this one, it highlights the track that we're, so you'll know that it's the correct MIDI instrument that you're editing. So in our case, we want to go back to track 1 with the Rhodes, and we want to remove the keyboard from triggering those sounds because we already recorded the sounds. We don't need the keyboard to trigger them anymore. So now if I play back, you can see that they're still being triggered because they recorded what notes to trigger. And that's basically what MIDI is. It's recording the note information that you played. It's not recording any sounds. It's just recording, is it C1, C2, E1, E2? Is it a sharp? Is it C1 sharp? Is it, so it's sending note information over to the computer, and the computer is loaded that up to whatever instrument that you have selected, and then it triggers those instruments based upon the note that you selected. Crazy, but that's how it works in essence. So anyways, back to this. We've deselected the keyboard from triggering the notes within Studio One on the Rhodes so that we can trigger the notes, the bass sounds, without being interfered with the Rhodes. So now, if I play the Rhodes back, so you can see now the Rhodes, you can hear it. And if I want to record something to it, I'll go ahead and record enable the upright bass. And we're going to hit record, enable, and it's going to start recording. So I wasn't trying to be musical. I was just trying to record notes so you can see that I'm still using the same keyboard that I used to trigger the Rhodes and record the Rhodes sounds. I just deactivated the Rhodes from using the keyboard and being triggered, and just used the keyboard for the upright bass. So then I was able to layer on top of it. Obviously the timing is off, but you get the gist. Looks like we have some people watching in the room in YouTube. Drop a comment. Let me know that you're watching. Drop a like in the room if you are watching, so that other people will know that this is going on right now. I apologize. I tried to do this on Thursdays, and if I can't get it on a Thursday, I'm going to be doing them on Fridays at noon as a makeup day. So yesterday I just was busy, had a lot going on. Wasn't able to get one in yesterday, but I'm here today at noon as promised, and we're going to get part 2 of Studio One Pro 7 beginners kind of tutorial course. We're just going to be walking through this and going through all this fun stuff we got here. So basically what I started off with this morning was how to set up a MIDI instrument in Studio One, and then how we use that MIDI instrument to trigger the sounds within Studio One. And that's what I was just demonstrating right here. We drug in a sound for the Rhodes instrument. We triggered it with the keyboard, and then we drug in another sound, an upright right bass, and we triggered it with the same keyboard by deactivating the top one. It doesn't trigger the sounds, but it does the MIDI notes that were recorded. If we double click on it, it should open up the edit window down here, and you'll see those MIDI instruments. And if you hit the edit, no matter what track you're on, it will open up the window for that track. So say I wanted to edit this because the timing was bad. These chords need to start on the 1. I started a little late because the recording's a little bit started and I wasn't ready. And we'll walk through some of how to set up a recording so that you can have a count in so you're ready, so that when it's like tick, 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 it's time to go. I didn't do that on this. I was just doing something quick so we can get something recorded on here. So I'm just going to highlight these 3 notes, which comprise of that chord right there. And I'm going to drag them all the way to the first measure. And then I might just go ahead and bring that sustain down to 1 bar. So now when I hit play, so that chord plays for 1 bar. And 1 note kind of slips over a little bit, and you can always just grab that 1 note. Boom, same thing. And then I can grab these right here and say we want these to start at the halfway point of bar 2. Go ahead and line those up so they start right. And we want to sustain. We'll highlight them all. About a bar long. We'll do the same thing. Get them all kind of uniform. Start that from the beginning. And if I want, I could bring these over. So just drag those over. Make sure you put them in the spot that they were in. Now the timing is right. It's on tempo because we got a grid set up. The grid is at 130. So we know that everything is in time. So now we can go down to this bass line and say, you know what, I kind of like that first note. Let's keep that, bring it to the beginning and see how that sounds. And maybe we bring that whole little riff over. Hear that sounds. Actually, I'm going to undo all that so I can bring them all over relative to each other. So I'm going to highlight them like this. And then drag that all the way over to 1. All right, now when I hit playback, the bass note, you can see how it moves up here. The bass note should align with the beginning of the chords. So that's not bad. The timing is bad, but that's easily fixed. You know, move that there. Let's move that to to the 2, and then we'll bring this over here to the halfway point of the second measure, and it should sound a little more ding, ding. So there you have it. That's how you record MIDI in the Studio One. Super, super, super easy. If you're watching on YouTube, and I know you are, hit that like button. Share this with everybody out there. Leave me a comment, please. Let me know that you're watching. If you have any questions on if you're watching on Rumble, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Locals, Twitch, or Kick, just leave a comment, a question, and I'll try to answer that question live today. And if I can't answer today, I'll try to answer that question on the next one. But yeah, leave your comments in the section, the comment section. So I'm not just talking to myself the whole time, right? All right. So yeah, super, super easy. If you don't like the instrument sound that is playing, you can always keep the performance. Say I don't like the bass sound, I can change the bass sound within the instrument. Maybe I don't want the upright bass. Maybe I want a 6-string bass sound. And I'll click on that, and it will change the sound that's being triggered, but not the performance. A little grittier, right? I'm going to mute the top track so we just hear the bass. And you can audition different sounds. So the cool thing is, the cool thing about that is that when you're in that creative moment, you don't have to search for that perfect sound. You can find something close, relatively close, and use that to record the performance. Don't lose the inspiration because you get lost in trying to find that perfect sound, and then you don't have the inspiration to record what it was that got you excited to begin with. So what you want to do is just find a basic sound, and you can do that. Find the basic instrument kind of that you're thinking of. A bass. I need to record a bass line. So just find a bass and drag it in there, drop it in. Your MIDI instrument is set up, and let inspiration take over. Record that performance, and then change the sound. You can always change the sound, but the performance, that's the part that's the key, right? You want to get the best performance, and the best performance comes when you're the most inspired. So the beautiful thing about Studio One, in my opinion, is that it allows you to be in keep that creativity moving, um, uninterrupted by the technical parts of the software. They've dumbed it down enough that anybody can drag and drop these days, and everybody knows how to do that. So that's the beauty of it. Drag and drop, find that sound, drop it in, let inspiration take over, hit that record button, and you're off and flying. Don't worry about the editing or making it perfect or the timing perfect. A lot of that stuff can be fixed in post production. The most important part of all of this is to be inspired to make and create. So just the actual part of recording the idea, then you can go back and refine that idea. And that's what multi-track recording allows you to do. And that's what Studio One allows you to do, in my opinion, better than its competition. And I'm not a paid, this isn't a paid promotional YouTube video or anything like that. I'm not endorsed by Studio One. I've been using their products for a number of years. Um, I just really believe in their products. And uh, it's really helped my workflow. It's helped my creativity so much that I won't leave the software. I need Studio One more than the other software. So, all right, guys. So that kind of concludes the MIDI portion. Just a basic little section, and I'll try to make a clip of this. So if you just want to see this, um, it'll be a clip on its own, just setting up the MIDI, and maybe I'll go a little bit more in depth in that as well. All right. So I'm gonna back out of this. We're gonna go back to the main project window, and we started on this little loop track the other day, right? Where we were working with loops. and I showed you guys how we bring in loops and started working with them through the browser window. Just some basic stuff, right? So today I want to show you more Studio One functionality that makes your creative process work a little bit easier. So this is more of the setup stuff, but just a little more detailed. So I'm going to back out of this one real quick, and we're going to open up a brand new one, a blank page. Okay. Get a quick drink here. It's hard to talk for 2 hours straight and not drink anything. You get really parched. Leave a comment below. What are you guys drinking? What do you guys like to drink in the morning? Are you coffee people? Are you water people? I've been drinking warm lemon water in the mornings. It really helps with my my liver health. I mean, my kidney health. Kidney health. So I highly recommend it. So, all right. So I'm going to start doing some things that are more practical, that things that we may run across. Okay. So I'm a hip hop producer, rock producer, pop producer. So I work with a lot of different genres. But the majority of my clients are hip hop artists. And a lot of hip hop artists will come in with either track outs, which will be the individual tracks for music that they have. They may come in with a stereo mix, an MP3, a WAV file. They may come in and say, hey, I want to steal a beat off of YouTube. Don't recommend that unless your YouTube beat is already copyrighted that. Check out a video later on about copywriting your beats and getting ahead of the curve. But a lot of times they come in with different formats, right? And we have to bring those formats in, and we have to get the session set up so that we can get moving, so that we can start recording their vocals. And believe me, hip hop artists, they want to get moving quickly. So you have to be quick at doing what you're doing. So today I wanted to give you an example of how I would set up a session for a hip hop artist, or any artist for that matter, that brings in a pre-mixed music that I didn't make. Okay. In this case, it's going to be an MP3 that an artist had brought to me before. And let me pop up that one. I found one. It's a Polo G Little Dirk type beat. Let me see. Yeah, Polo G Little Dirk type beat. Fallback, produced by Ramsey Beats. It's an MP3. It's a free MP3 that Ramsey Beats made, and one of my clients brought in to me one time. So I'm just going to grab this MP3. I'm going to drag it in here. Again, Studio One, drag or drop. Super easy. I don't have to do much. It's doing all the work for me. You can see over here, it's importing the file. I can go ahead and hide that, and we'll wait for this to import the file. It only takes a few seconds. It only takes a few seconds for you guys to drop a comment or hit that like button or hit that subscribe button. So do that if you haven't already done so. We've reached over 6,000 subscribers. In the past 2 weeks, we were at 4,300 subscribers about a month ago, and now we're over 6,000 subscribers as of this morning. So I really appreciate everybody doing that and subscribing, but there's a lot of you guys that haven't subscribed yet. About 80% of you guys haven't subscribed to watch the channel. Please take a moment to hit the subscribe button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. And I don't have just the same old videos being dropped all the time. Yeah, I do reaction videos. I love doing reaction videos. They're super, super fun. And it brings in a larger audience. But I also do meditation music. I also do my own beats that are for lease and for sale. I also make my own music that I release myself. I also do tutorials, and we do instructional videos. We do interviews. So we have a wide gamut of stuff that we do. So hit that like and subscribe button. Looks like I might have lost a couple of y'all with my little speech there. That's fine. We're just waiting on this to upload, you know. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to close that browse screen. It's uploaded. It's created the track for me, and it's all there. You can see that this track was mastered. And the way I know that is because the waveforms has completely dominated the box of the track. You can see that they almost reached the top and almost reached the bottom of the track. So that tells me that this track has been mastered. I'm just going to widen this up so we can see it. It's a stereo MP3, and let's hear what it sounds like real quick. I need to pick an output. So let me do that real quick. Boom. There we go. Shout out to Ramsey Beats for Fallback. Go check them out. Beatstars.com. Nice little bass. I like this. Okay, so I can kind of hear where the verses are and the choruses and some of the other elements. We're gonna have the intro. You're gonna have kind of like a couple bridges here. So one of the first things I do is check to see if the track has been embedded with the beat, the tempo of the beat. So I don't know what the tempo of the beat is of this track, and I want to set up my session, my project session, so that the grid is set up to conform to this tempo, right? So we need to find out the tempo. Sometimes the producer will embed that information in the title, or sometimes it's embedded in the track. In this case, we have neither, which is what happens a lot of times. So if we look down here, I can see if the track has a tempo embedded. I can come over down here. I open up the inspector window on the track, come down to the bottom of the screen, and you'll see where it says file tempo not set. Okay. So first thing I have to do is find out what the tempo of the song is. So there's a couple ways you can do this. In Studio One, it has tempo detection. It's cool. I like it. But you need to know how to do this manually on your own and not rely solely on Studio One. So first of all, I'm just going to create a loop of the main section. So if you notice that when I bring my cursor all the way to the top to the ruler bar a little bit more, it turns into a pencil. I'm going to grab that pencil and I'm going to click right here and I'm going to drag from bar 43 all the way to bar 1. Now we've got a loop set. I'm going to go down here to the little racetrack looking thing down here that's grayed out. I'm going to click on it. Now it's blue. Again, anything that you see blue means that it's active. If it's grayed out, it means it's not active. You'll see the loop has turned blue up here, which means the loop is active. If I unhighlight it, it's not active. So I'll show you what that looks like. If I go to the end at bar 41, we'll hit play, and it should loop back to bar 1. Okay, so it's looped back to bar 1. All right. If I have this turned off, hit play, it's going to just continue to play to bar 44, 45, 46. So we want the loop on. And you'll understand why. And I don't really need the whole track, so I can peel this all back right quick to just the loop. So visually, I'm looking at it, and we're not far off, to be honest. Our track tempo, our project tempo is set at 130. So therefore, the grid is set up to reflect a tempo of 130. Just visually looking at this, where the downbeats are falling. So on bar 9, say right there where the downbeat falls. It's falling on the downbeat pretty darn close, and the same thing on 14. So 130 is pretty close to the tempo, but I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to actually start it at bar 9. So I'm going to bring this loop over to bar 9 because that's where the drums come in. And that's what you're looking for, is that first. So you can actually see those are the 808 hits. right? So we've got a loop. It's not going to loop perfectly because we don't have the grid set up with the right tempo, but we're close. We're already close. So down here where my cursor is, you'll see where it says tempo 130 and then the word tempo. And then if I hover over that, it says tap tempo, right? So if you use your mouse, you can tap this out. So I'm going to play it somewhere around here where like the full drums are at, right there. And I'm just going to go click, 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 click. And what's going to happen is every 4 clicks of my mouse, it's going to average those and it's going to change the tempo. And so you're going to see the grid change. The song isn't going to change tempo. Just the grid is going to change a little bit. So I'll realize where the tempo is close to here in a second. I'm going to say it's probably around 149. So I thought 130 was close, but it's not. So now I'm going to turn on the metronome, which is down here on the bottom. This metronome looking thing. It's grayed out. Let's turn it on. So you'll hear a click track. Tick, 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 tick. And that's going to reflect the grid, not the song. We're trying to get the tick to line up with the song. So you can see how it's not lined up, right? So here's a little trick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel all this back to that first downbeat that we saw. So we're going to say 10, right? I'm going to drag this all the way to 1. Move that loop over here. And now I'm going to take this off. So I've got it on snap right now. So you'll see that it's snapping to the grid. Every time I peel this back, it's kind of snapping to every quarter note, right? Because my grid is set to 16ths. If we zoom in, you'll be able to see the grid. So it's snapping to each one of those lines. I'm trying to get rid of this little piano part and just zoom in right here to the beginning of the beat. So I'm going to take this off of snap so that I have more control. I'm going to grab this back and peel it. So see how it's not snapping anymore? I can go anywhere and let go. So I'm going to take this to the very beginning of the beat. Right there. And you can zoom in just by pulling down on the ruler bar. That will zoom you in, or pull up and it will zoom out. Okay. So I'm just going to peel this all the way to the beginning, hit right there. Boom. I'm going to find that 0 point. And the 0 point means that there's no audio across the 0 above or below it. So right there. It looks like that. That one's got a little audio right there. So we'll go about right there. Okay. Zoom back out. We're going to drag this to the first window. And now we're going to hit the click track. Let's start from the beginning real quick. We only really need 8 bars. If we can get 8 bars to loop, then the rest of it will be fine. So we can get the 8 bars to loop without any issues, then the rest of the song will be fine. So we can see that it's not, by the time it gets to bar 8, the click is a little off. So a little trick that I've learned is that I can go into the tempo window right down here and highlight that. And I'm going to use my mouse, the little ball on the mouse. I'm going to drag that down or up, and you're going to see the grid start to move one way or the other. So I'm moving that grid to line up with this, the last beat there on 9. So let's see what we got here. Let me go down here. So go the other way. So it was at 149, right? So I went down to 148 and it got further away. So if I go down to 150, it looks like it's right on point. So I'm just going to click off of that. So we're going to put our tempo at 150. We're going to start at the beginning with the tempo on, the click track, and it should be lined up. And the loop should be seamless. See, you didn't know. Unless the drums hadn't come in, you would have never known that there was a loop. Okay, so now we know that the tempo of the track that we've been given is 150. So I'm going to turn off the loop section real quick. I'm just going to drag this back out a little bit, and I'm going to peel to the very beginning. And we'll just drag that to the front. And let's see if everything is lined up. It doesn't look like it. I may have to clean it up a little bit at the front. So you'll see that there's probably a little space here at the front that's screwing it all up. Yep, you see it right there. So we'll take it off of the snap. That allows us to peel this back to about the beginning right there. So that's the true beginning. And let's see if this looks any better. Looks like everything is lining up. So you can see all the beats are lining up on the lines. And if I come out here and zoom out, it looks like, we'll see. Let's play from the beginning. Feeling the downbeat's going to be on the... Number right. Yep. So the one way you can really tell is at bar 17 is when those drums kick in, everything happens on that downbeat right there on 17. But everything, if you look and zoom in, everything is lined up to the grid. So now we know that our tempo is 150. We can peel everything back, and now we're ready to record. We're ready to do more. Okay. So that's step one. So I've found the tempo is 150. And what we're going to do is go to the inspector window, and we're going to go ahead and input that tempo to 150 here. And then we're going to go up here and make sure that on tempo, it's on time stretch. So what that means is that anytime I change the tempo down here, now that the 150 is the track tempo and it's now embedded into the track, if I change, say I don't like the time of the track, it's a little too fast, I want to slow it down. Now I can change the tempo of the track, the whole track, and it will change, and the grid will conform with it as well. So let's move this back down to 130, which is what our original project was, right? So here it is at 150. Right? Now here's 130. And you can see how it moved out like this. So the faster the tempo, it's going to be more compressed. The lower the tempo, it's going to be elongated. So I'm going to do that one more time. So you watch the blue wave file. I'm going to go back to 150. You'll see it compress. Right? So in compress, you can actually see the ending of the song. If I change it to 130, it's elongated, and now the loop isn't going to fit. Yeah, it still fits because the loop conformed with the actual grid. So everything conforms. And now if we play it at 130, it's going to be a little slower. Too slow. So we'll put that back at 150 where it was right. But this is great because you say the hip hop artist was like, man, I really wish this beat was a little bit faster. I can always speed it up now that I know the tempo, and the tempo is embedded in the track. So say I wanted to put it at 155. And that click track is just letting me know that the grid is good. That the grid is lined up to the song is lined up to the grid, and everything is great. So once I've done that, and that doesn't take that long, guys. I just took my time with it. But usually once you've done it a couple of times, um, it's not bad at all. I want to check something real quick. Okay. Okay, just making sure that we're still good. We're still live. We're going to be going until 2:00 today. Let me get a drink real quick. So a lot of times I want to structure out the song before we get started, so I know where everything should be, right? So part of the reason the grid helps is that when I can put on the click track, say there's no drums at the beginning of this part, so they may need some kind of reference in their headphones to start to sing. So those little clicks really help. I can turn down those clicks because they can be a little loud in the headphones. If I open up the mix window and go to the master fader down here, and you'll see that there's a metronome that's in blue, which means that the click track is on. If I turn it off, you'll see that metronome doesn't do anything. um, this means that it's activated. So whenever this is on, you'll hear it. When it's off, you won't hear it. But as long as this is activated, you'll be able to hear it one way or the other, on or off. If this was turned off and I turned on the metronome, you would not hear the metronome. So this should be on your master track. Click on and off. That's what it is. So if I hover to the middle one, click volume. So if I click on that and hold that down, you'll see a little fader. I'm just going to turn that fader down. And you can do this while you're listening. It goes away. We can turn it up. So quick tip. If you're recording vocals and you're using a click track and they're wearing headphones, make sure that the click track isn't so loud that it bleeds into the microphone. And then that's something you'll have to remove in the track later on after in post-production. It happens. And sometimes it happens because they like to click louder, and you know that what the result of that is going to be, but you have to appease the artist because they need to hear it and you want to get the best performance out of them. So part of that is that click. Um, so yeah, it's something that you can always pull out using like isotope, click remover. Uh, it just focuses on that frequency, or you can use an EQ and focusing on that frequency and just pull that click out. So it's something to be conscientious of whenever you're recording is click bleed. Not only do you have to worry about headphone bleed for the song being too loud in their headphones and bleeding into the microphone, and now you have a vocal track that has got remnants of a click sound and a little bit of you hear the track in the background. So if you did any edits to the track, and you didn't do the same edit to the vocal that has the track kind of bleeding into the vocal, then you're going to hear some artifacts. All right, enough with all that. So once I have the tempo set up and the grid set up, my next thing is to structure the song out so that I know where his verses are, where his choruses are going to be, where the intros are, where the bridges are, and where the outros are. This not only helps me keeping it structured, it helps me to know what sections we're on. Whenever he might say, I want to, or they might say, I want to start in the chorus section. Well, I can automatically go to the chorus section because I got it mapped out already and I know where it is. I don't have to say, is this the chorus section right here? Or is this the chorus section? Can you tell me where the chorus section is? I get all that stuff out of the way at the very beginning. All right. So in Studio One, they have what is called the arranger view. Okay, so if we go up to the top up here, scroll over, right next to the plus sign, there's looks like 3 little lines with like a little dot. I think that's something on my window. All right, yeah. Little something right there. You click on that, it gives you a drop down box. You got the ruler, a marker, chords, arranger, lyrics, video, signature, and tempo. We want the arranger track. And you'll see that it pops open a little track up here, a little lane up here, right below the ruler and right above the track. I'm going to close it out so you don't see it and open it back up. So if it's not check marked, you're not going to see anything. So if I check mark the marker, you'll see that there's 2 markers, the start marker and the end marker. I can drag that marker all the way to the end right there. And then I could close that out. And I want the arranger window. Okay. So on the arranger window, and I'm going to move the loop back to about 8 bars, because what happens if I double click on the arranger window, it will create the first section. Okay. So for example, double click on the window. Oops. Drag that out. And now we have the intro. So I'm just going to peel that to the beginning and peel this back to about bar 8 right there, where it looks like the intro. Let's listen. I still think this is intro. I think when the drums pop in, it's going to be the first verse. So right there, when the drums pop in, we're going to take that intro all the way to there. All right. So we labeled it. Generally, when you double click on it, it makes each section the size of the loop. That's why I put the loop back. But I'm just going to drag it back to the original length of the song and try this again. Now, if I double click, it's going to create a verse. So this time it does it. I'm just going to peel this back. The last thing you want to do is move it like this, because it's going to move the whole section. Okay. So you want to peel and pull. So the verse, let's start there. We're going to listen to when the verse kicks in. And this could be chords. I'm not sure yet. Because it's still got the piano. It's got a little vocal thing going on the back. Maybe chorus. We'll see. Yeah. So you can hear how all the elements of the beat are in this 16 bars right here, from 17 to 33. You have the beat, you have the piano, and you have the kind of vocal going on the back. And then that vocal gets taken out right here. So in my head, the more things happening are probably going to be going on during the chorus section. So I'm just going to rename this the chorus section or hook. And all you got to do is right click on the section that you created. So if I scroll back over here to the intro and right click, I can change the name, I can change the color, a couple other things, duplicate, stuff like that. I'm going to change the color because I like yellow to be my intro. My hooks I like to be in green because they're the money makers, right? The hook is the money maker. And then as soon as that disappears, to me, that's where the verse comes in. So I'm going to double click here. It's going to create another section. It called it chorus because it does it in order. It's going to create intro. It's going to create a verse. It's going to create a chorus. It's going to create a bridge and then an outro. You can rename these and you can continue to add. They're just going to be pre-named as you double click on the arranger bar. So I'm going to go to the chorus. I'm going to rename this to verse. And I'm going to color this blue because I like to keep my verses blue, and you'll see why in a little while. So we'll see how far we want to take this. And I have a feeling it's going to be in a bar 65. So we go back, we're going to drop the beat and go back into that piano section again. Now this could be either interpreted as a bridge, pre-chorus maybe. So that would be where the chorus would come back in. Those are all the main elements. So it could be two things. And this is where you're going to have to consult with your client. He may hear this part and wrote his hook to this part, and then whenever that vocal part dropped out, that's where he put his hook, and where I'm thinking it might be verse, right? Whenever I create a beat, that's kind of how I do it. The most active part of the song with the most elements of the song are usually going to be my hook or chorus section, and then I'm going to pull some of those elements out from my verse section so you can really get more detail of what they're saying in the verse. Because the chorus, you're doing more stacking of vocals, so you're able to pull, make the vocals pop out over on top of those other elements, as opposed to a hook. You want that clarity. You don't want anything kind of interfering with the story. You see what I'm saying? So that's just my thought process. But I could be wrong. It could be something totally different with the artist. They may see this and go, okay, yeah, to me, this is the piano part is like a pre-hook, and I want that pre-hook going. The intro, I want it to be a pre-hook going right into the hook, and then it comes in with a verse. Or they might say it's intro going into a verse, and I want a longer, a 16 bar verse, and I want like a 32 bar hook. Or might be a bridge. But for our purposes, just for our purposes, I'm the rap artist today, and I want it to be like that. So we see how it repeats. So I'm just going to double on here, and you'll see that it creates a bridge. We already know that our hook is eight bars long, or 16 bars long. So I can go to 57 to 73. I'm just going to rename this and recolor it to green. I'm going to call this hook 2. That's the second hook. Then we come over here and create our verse again. We're going to take that to 97. We'll rename this verse 2. And then we'll recolor that to the blue that I like to use. And then we'll take this, and generally when the hook goes, it's the last thing that plays before the music ends. I call it a hook outro. So that's what I'm going to title this. And I color that in orange, so that gives me some distinction. So now what we have here at the top is we have our arranger track. We know where our intro section is. We know where our hooks are. We know where our verses are. So if the artist is like, okay, I have one artist who comes in, he likes to knock out hooks first. And he'll come in and he'll knock out the hooks first. So he'll be like, all right, let's go to that next hook. Or I need to copy this hook right here and paste it over here. Without the grid, that's a pain in the ass because you're constantly trying to line things up to make sure that it's falling exactly the same as it did the way it was recorded on the first hook. That's why we use a grid. That's why the grid and finding the tempo of the song and lining things up at the very beginning are so important. So reiterizes, this is why we use the grid. So editing is so much easier. So if I had some vocals right here that they recorded for the hook, and a lot of times they don't want to re-record the hook unless there's some differences in it, right? Maybe the words are different or something like that. But generally the words will be the same. I can just copy this section for the hook, copy that and paste it right over here, and I'm confident that it's gonna line up perfectly because we have the grid set. If I didn't have the grid set, I'd probably spend hours trying to figure it out, and it shouldn't take me hours. So I can just copy that over. So whenever they're doing their verses, their hooks are in their place, and I can do the same thing over here. Copy the hook to the end over here, and they may want to add to the hook just to give it a little bit of distinction from the first hook to the second hook to the outro hook. It's all up to the artist. But what we're doing as an engineer and Studio One user is trying to set up our workflow set so that the creative process isn't disturbed, isn't interrupted. And for the small interruptions we do incur, it's very important that we minimize those and make maximize our recording time and creative process. So by setting up a grid, setting up the arrangement window, knowing what your structure is before you start the recording process, so much makes the creative process so much better, so much more better. So that is how you would use the arranger track, to and I do this when I'm building a song too. I know how I like to set my songs up, so I might use an arranger track, and I'll just start creating, and I might come over here to the hook and just start creating all the elements of the song and build them in the hook section, and then I start peeling things out, and maybe I want the intro to be a little scaled down, a little less musical, and I just want the beginning piano part, and I don't want any other instrumentation. So, you have that ability to do that. With the arranger track, it just helps to be able to, again, stay creative in the creative process. And it really does help with completing a beat as well. Sometimes if you don't have a song structure, you just have a song, an idea, and that idea might be 8 bars long, and you're just like, okay, what do I do with this? Well, create an arranger window and lay out your structure, and then try to fit the pieces to the outline that you created, and that'll help you to complete a song as opposed to just have a little section of the song and not know what to do with it. Cool. All right, guys. Yeah, this is getting fun. We're getting into some detailed stuff now, so this is great. Now, if I do change the tempo of the song, my arranger window doesn't change with it, unfortunately. I'm going to have to readjust that so that everything lines up to where it's supposed to be. Okay. But that's better than having to do a lot of the other work that you would have to do. So, beautiful thing about the arranger window. Here's another little cool tip about the arranger window. Now that we've got it set up and we know what the arrangement of this particular song is, we know that the piano starts first, right? But what if I want to see how how it sounds with the hook at the very beginning, like without the piano part, right? I could say I want to grab hook 2, and I just want to let's see, I'm going to hold the Alt button so I get a copy of it. And I'm going to drag that copy of it to the very front. And now we've got a copy of hook 2 has been created. It's been cut and pasted right here. So it actually cut a piece of the song, this little section out, this column, this piece right here. Oops. I need this tool. This one right here. This section right here got cut out and copied and pasted right here. So now you can audition how it would sound with hook. So you can hear a little cut right there where there's but you can fix that. But this gives you the option of auditioning different arrangements. So I'm going to undo that, and it's just going to undo what I did, and we're back to the original, the way it was. See, I wanted to see what the hook sounded like double, or I wanted the hook is the right amount of time, so it's 8 bars. But say my verse, the artist was like, you know what, I want 32 bars. I don't want 16 bars. I want 64 bars in this case. So this is 32 right here. So I could just double this, duplicate this right here. Now it duplicated that verse. So now we have 64 bars as opposed to 32 bars to record. And you'll hear where the cut is. So really cool little feature that a lot of people don't utilize. And this is great for remixes. So say you have all the vocals recorded and everything, and you wanted to see how this would work. Let's pull up a session where I have something like that going on. Let's go to, who is this? How We Roll. Let's see who this is. Didn't do it on this song, so we'll close this one out. I'm going to go back to here. I know one of these right here does brand new. Is this Elliott? Okay, yeah. All Elliott songs are the same. This is going to be cool. It's going to be cool. So you will get a chance to see how the arranger window works with a completed track, completed vocals recording and everything like that. So you've already recorded, you've already mixed it, and the artist is like, can you do a remix? Can you do I have a better idea. I like to have the vocal up front, or the verse up front, or the hook first. So you can change the arrangement for sure. This is taking a minute to open. I think some of the plugins I'm not using, but for our purposes, come on now. All right. So we have a full song here. Let me just make this a little bit smaller and compact. So like I said, I like things a certain way. And you'll see that my intro on this song is yellow. His verse is in blue. His hook is in green. Verse is in blue. And I set up those as well as the track colors. So my vocal hook parts are all in green. My verses are all in blue. Right? So we're going to just take a quick gander at the song. Let me get the right output for this bad boy. Turn up the click. So he comes in midway through the intro with his verse. Okay, he's just still part of the intro.
Now I just gotta say, today I'm feeling like fuck my responsibilities. Fun off the hook, I'm writing verses to some Dilla beats. Wide awake and envision when I'm gonna feel the seeds. Crazy life can change off of future records I release. Soliloquies from a mind way beyond his reach. I'm looking past cause I ain't had a solid win in weeks. But at least I got the day in front of me and the opportunity to make a change. So I'ma watch a Laker game, I'ma smoke it down game. I don't really give a fuck if you got a problem, man. What you really got came from getting pressed about dumb shit that you never did have no control of. Playing this game at my own tempo. Young CP, foot general on the instrumental. Getting to my spot when it's right to never settle. And I don't do this shit for medals. I'm trying to find every reason not to be who I need to. Sorry if I've been distant. I swear that's all that I know. Somehow I let myself down at the same time I do. But it's cool cause I'm back and I've been feeling brand new.
Okay, so you can see how the verse and the hooks are a little bit different. But what if he hits me up and he says, "Hey man, can you I just feel like the hook needs to come in before that verse. I need to catch them early on. Can you add a hook to the song and then rebounce it down for me?" Yeah, no problem. I'll just come over here. I'll create a duplicate of this, or I can hit the Alt key, and as I'm holding down the Alt key and grab this and drag this, I can drag this to the beginning right here, right after that intro. And now the vocals have been cut. Everything that is in that column right there, the hook column gets cut and placed over here. So we just made a rearrangement right here.
It's gotta say, I'm trying to find every reason not to be who I need to. Sorry if I've been distant, I swear that's all that I know. Somehow I let myself down at the same time I do. But it's cool, cause I'm back and I've been feeling brand new. Today I'm feeling like fuck my responsibilities. Fun off the.
So there you see how valuable having the arranger set up in addition to your grid and tempo for your song can be so useful. Like that is just an incredible tool. I'm going to undo that real quick so it goes back to the original version. But that's just an incredible tool. What if they wanted to add another verse for a guest, a feature? You know, they got 2 verses and they want to add another verse for a feature. So I can just say, you know what? No problem. I can do that. I'm just going to highlight these 2. I'm going to grab them and I'm going to just drag it right here. And we're going to create a whole nother section. And I'll just go ahead and remove the vocals in that section now that they have a whole verse open for them to use. And let's see, like this, boom. Now there's a blank verse space form. So you can do like verse 1 and verse 3 are you, and then you have a feature coming in verse 2. But you weren't planning on that, right? You weren't planning on that at all. But with Studio One, if you set it up in a way like this, then it makes it so much easier for you to go back and edit, remix, come up with new options, to refresh that song, come up with, different instrumentation or a bridge or something like that. And it's just as easy as just adding in the column, and adding, fill in that column with the music that needs to be there, or taking from a column that already has that music and adding more. So we can take this song that's 3 minutes and 3 seconds long, and I'm seeing this right here. And we can create a longer extended version of the song. So that's a great tool right there. Great tool. One of my favorite tools, the arranger window. So if you have any comments about the arranger window, any questions about it, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below. If you're watching this, please hit the like button, so everybody who is into this kind of stuff knows that we are making this kind of content. And they won't know that unless you hit that like button. So please hit that like button if you're watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'm trying to do this as a weekly series, either on Thursdays. If I can't make it on Thursdays, I'll make it up on a Friday like I am today. But you're still going to get that 2-hour session in every week. And we're just going to explore the different options that Studio One has for us. I'll answer any questions that you guys have, that you leave in the comments or that you email me at. Email me at area67music@gmail.com. I'll answer as many emails and questions as you guys have. This is what I do, so I enjoy spreading the knowledge with you guys and sharing it with you. So yeah, that's the arranger window. That's something that I feel is really important. Setting up a grid, getting your arranger window set up, and being super prepared for whatever comes your way, because you don't want to start recording because they want to come in and kind of dictate how fast it goes. I usually let them know that it's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to get started. If you have an hour session, you can just expect that 45 minutes of that is going to be spent recording. 15 minutes of that is going to be set up a setup time. Now, if you want to send me stuff in advance and let me know, then that makes it even better. I can have this already pre-set up. If I already have the beat ahead of time, I can already have tapped out the tempo. I can already have my grid set up. So when they get here, all I got to do is make sure the structure is how I hear it. It's the same as they hear it. I'll go ahead and structure that out so that I'm ready to go. And then boom, we're ready. So I'm going to close this one out real quick, and we're going to open up one of the other ones I had open a second ago. We don't want to save that. So this, okay, so say this is a session that I have come in, and I've set it up. I've got the beat set up. I've got the grid set up. The tempo's right, and we've got our structure laid out in the arranger window. Now I need tracks to record on, right? So I've already pre-set up some templates based upon different scenarios that I have. So if I'm recording a hip hop artist, I can just go grab that template and load up the different parts of the template that I want to be loaded into this session. So the way that we would do that is we'd come up here to is it song? I'm going to go to the song tab up here at the top, and I'm going to import song data. And that is also a Shift Command I. And I'm going to go find my template folder, which generally everything is going to be within one folder in Studio One. So when you open it up, you'll see your demos and tutorials, diagnostics, installers, all that kind of stuff. And all your songs are going to be saved to the song folder. But everything is usually within one folder. And if I go to templates over here, I've got version 4, version 5. These are for the different versions of Studio One where I made those templates. I just kind of transferred them into one folder. We'll go to Studio One 5 songs. And nothing there. So we're going to 4. Okay, here we go. And I've got a couple of them here. We got band templates. We got a basic template, basic vocal template for hip hop. We got a drum section recording template. Another hip hop template, hip hop 2. So I've done a couple of different types of templates depending on what I'm using. So usually I go with the hip hop 2 template. I'm going to double click that, and it's going to pop up. Basically, the song file called template, hip hop 2 template, right? And it's going to have all the tracks that I set up for that. So if you'll see that I've got a arranger track, I've got instrumental track set up for this instrument track. So that's already in here. I don't need to add that. I don't need a tempo and time signature track. I can add all that stuff on my own. But what I do want is I want the hook bus. I want the verse bus, which is going to include all the 4 tracks of to record hooks on, 4 tracks to record verses on. I'm going to grab an ad lib bus, which is going to give me 4 tracks of a couple tracks of ad libs, and I could grab background bus if I wanted to. That'll give me 2 tracks of backgrounds, or I can just add them to my ad libs. Generally, what I do. Then I have preset up verses, reverbs and delays, specifically for the hooks, specifically for the verses. So I'm going to import that information, and then I do have a background ad lib, verb, and delay. So I'm checking off all the things that I want to add to this session from the template, and I'm going to hit OK. And it's also going to insert. There's a couple other options here. If I had anything recorded on this template, I could have that information, the events and layers, automation, all that kind of information come over with it. Copy the files to song folder. If there's any files that came with it, I'd have those copied into this project file folder. And any preset volume, panning, inserts and sends. The inserts and sends, definitely because of the buses and the reverbs and delays. So I'm just importing all this information into here. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. Give it a few seconds. Boom, 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 and boom. We have all our tracks set up, and I'm ready to go. All right, guys, let's go. So we've got 4 tracks to record my vocal hooks. If I need to add more, I'll just add them into this folder. So this is the hook bus, and it creates whenever you create a bus, it will create a folder that will have the tracks that are associated with that bus inside that folder, so that you can view it, close it out. It makes it view options a little bit easier. So if I'm just working on the hook, I can record enable that track, and we'll go say, here we go. Let's record. Check 1. Oops, I don't have a mic line selected, and I don't really have any on this. This is going to be interesting. Let's do this real quick. Let's see, this gives me check. All right, here we go. Check 1. Check 1. I think it's just recording the loop of the song. Check 1. Check 1. So yeah, right now I don't have the setup correctly to record on, but you get the gist. I'd record my vocals right here. If I want to layer, I have another track for that. If I want to do another layer, I have a track already set up for that. If I want to add another layer, I have a track set up for that. And if in case they do want another layer, I can just come over here to the last one, the 4th one in the hook bus, and just say duplicate track, and it gives me another one. So that I have 4 of them instead of 5, 5 of them instead of 4. If I want another one, just duplicate track, and it will do the same thing and give us 2 more tracks. And when I'm done recording vocals, I could close that track out, and I don't have to view the vocals in my way. I can see that there's some green lines here, and no vocals are there, but I don't have to actually see the vocal tracks open. So again, it's conserving real estate space. Real estate space becomes very important the more tracks that you start recording. Just a basic hip hop session with a MP3 stereo file can get pretty lengthy in tracks. I could have, one, let's say all these were hook. That's 6 tracks. The verses was ad libs, another 4, so that's 10 tracks. And then I'd have, say, a couple of ad libs that they do throughout. There's a couple more tracks, and probably have a few more of these. So you're looking at probably 20 something tracks, and this is really nothing. This is really nothing at all when it comes to recording, because this is just hip hop. So you're just recording vocals essentially. If they give you track outs, it could be 10 or 12 instrumental tracks in addition to 20, 30, 40 vocal tracks. If you're recording a band, you're looking at 100 to 200 tracks. So track real estate is really important, and to be able to visualize things without it being cluttered, and being able to move to parts that you want to work on quickly without being hindered by a bunch of mess, is the beauty of Studio One. The arranger track, the ability to create templates, bring that information in here. And if we go to the mix window, you'll see all the tracks that are here in the template. Like, let me just close the instrument window up, and I don't need to see that. So you'll see all the tracks. They have all their faders set up. So if I play, you got the fader for this one. For this track right here, this is the fader for it. If I hit the inspection tab for this track, it's going to give me all the information specifically for this track. And it's also going to give me a fader, much like this one right here, with all the same information. So if I say I wanted to pan this track to the left, you see how it's panning over here as well. When I might make this move. So these are all connected and interrelated. So it's just about real estate space. If I don't need to see all these and I just need to see the controls for this one, I don't have to have the mix window open. I can just open up the eye inspection window, throws it over here to the side. It's not taking up real estate right here. I can still make moves. I can still do my panning. I can still do any fader moves I want to do. I can still add an insert. Say I want to add a reverb or something, or I want to send this to a reverb, or I want to add an EQ. So I want to add an EQ. I can add the EQ here. Just go to PreSonus, go down here to Pro EQ, and boom, the EQ pops up, and you can see it here. Now, if I close the inspector window and open up the mix window and go to that track, that same information is still here. The EQ is still there. All it's just another way of accessing the information without having to see stuff you don't want to see. It's essentially what that is. So now I can add this EQ and so I want to make this sound boxy. Or I want to enhance certain parts, I can do that. A little filter sweep kind of action going on. So that's, I guess that's the take for today is efficiency when recording a session, being prepared for your session before the artist or artists show up. If you're having a band show up, you want to make sure that everything is ready to go so that you're spending the hours that they're paying you to do what they need you to do as opposed to doing what you need to do to be ready to record them. They shouldn't be paying you to be ready to record them. That's on you. So generally, if I'm recording a band, I'm going to have all my drums ready to go, set up. I'm going to have them all mic'd up. I'm going to have tested all the microphones. I'm going to have tracks set up for that already. I'm going to already have information about how many songs we're recording. If they have any tempo information for those songs, I'm going to know that information. If I have any key information for the songs, I'm going to know that information. So the more info that you know, the better prepared you can be for your sessions, the better engineering you can do during your sessions because you're not bogged down by the technical crap that goes on behind the scenes, the setup, the setting up tracks, and making sure that you have this, that, and the other ready to go. So Studio One makes this process so easy for the beginning engineer to the more advanced engineer to the professional engineer. It just time is money. Time is money. And if you're wasting time setting up, then you're wasting money. And you're wasting their money more than likely because they may have to come back for another session that they may have been able to complete in one session. Now it takes two because maybe you weren't ready as an engineer. So it's important to understand the basics, the very basics of setting up a session in Studio One. It doesn't matter if you're recording a band, if you're recording an artist, if you're recording yourself. It's important to understand the process of setting up a session so you can do it in a way that's giving you the best possible chance for the creative outcome that you're looking for. If that makes any sense. Yeah. So that's pretty much what our take is from today. From using the arranger window to setting up your MIDI instruments to understanding the grid and setting up a template so that you can move quickly throughout your songs. And the same thing with buses. Buses are the same thing. So if I have a number of tracks that are alike, then I'm going to group those. That's essentially what a bus is, a group of like-minded individuals riding together on one bus. right? So that's the way I look at it. The hook bus is a group of tracks that are all like-minded. They're they're there for the hook, and they're not there for the verse. They're not there for anything else. So you know what? I'm gonna put them on their own team bus, and wherever they travel together, and I can make group adjustments by having them in a bus, right? So um, that's essentially what the bus is for. So if I've got a number of things going on each one of these tracks, different things going on at different volumes, right? And I can pan these things to where they won't, you know, they're not overlapping with each other, and they got their own space, right? So everything's got their own space, their own track, and say the volumes are set how I like them relative to one another, and I don't want to ruin that mix. Well, it's best to have them all bust, because what basically is happening is I all this volume is being sent to the bus, and the bus is able to control the overall volume of the group of tracks. And that's essentially what the bus is doing. It's controlling the overall volume of the group of tracks. It's controlling the overall um, panning for the group of tracks. So each individual one is in their place. Now I can move this as a group. Say I want the whole group to be moved over to the left, or the whole group to be moved over to the right. Now I can do that as a group. That's what a bus is for. If I want to add reverb to the vocals and the hook, I don't have to add reverb to each individual track, because that's going to eat up a lot of processing power on my computer by having a reverb on this one, and a reverb on this one, and a reverb on this one, and a reverb on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a reverb specifically for my verses. I'm going to create a reverb specifically for my hooks, and I'm going to create a reverb that's specifically for my ad libs. That way that I can group things and not have to waste resource power from my computer to achieve a task. So I don't have to send reverbs or insert a reverb onto each one of these tracks. I can just go over here to this track and say, you know what? I want to send a copy of this whole group over to the hook reverb. And now when I hit play, it's going to send a copy of that over here to this reverb, and I can adjust it as such. So I'm going to open up another track here. Let's go to the beginner course track. So, for example, on this one that we started the other day, right? So I'm going to group these two into a bus. Okay. I'm going to call it the instrument bus. And you'll see I'm controlling the volume. You see the volume still going to each individual track, but that volume is coming to this bus, and from this bus out to the master fader. Okay. So they're grouped to the bus controls the volume that's going to the main output. So if I add a reverb, now I can go to this bus, much like on the last one where we had a whole 4 or 5 tracks that were all bused together. We just got 2 of them here. All right. Now I'm going to go to the send section. I'm going to say, you know what? I want to send a copy of this audio to the verb bus. And here's that copy. Okay. So now you're going to see this volume being sent here, and the dry volume is being sent to the master fader, and the reverb is also being sent to the master fader of this part right here. So I'm going to mute this part. No, I gotta play it. But you'll see a copy of this. So if I mute this reverb, the send, you don't see anything going to this. But you still hear the track being sent to the main output, right? So the copy of this main output is being sent to the reverb. Just get a really heavy reverb on here, like a large tunnel. So you can hear the reverb on that vocal, right? So it's basically a blend of the dry signal with a copy of it going to the reverb. So you're trying to blend it. So you don't have to have full volume going to the reverb. You just need a little bit of volume going to the reverb, and then you can turn the reverb up or down to taste. So one of the tips that I've been taught over the years is that when you're using any kind of effect, say a reverb or delay or chorus or anything, the best thing to do is you want to hear it, right? So we want to hear it. So let's just solo that bass line. And then you want to pull the effect down to right where you can't hear it. And then the moment you can't hear it anymore, turn it up just a tad so that you can hear it. And it's just that little bit that you need. You don't need to drench it like ketchup on French fries. You don't want to cover all the fries in ketchup, right? So you just want to add a little bit of the reverb to taste as a blend to the dry signal. So we probably send a little more to it. That way we're not asking a lot of the reverb. And now I've just barely added a little bit to it. I'll mute it. You don't hear it. And now you hear it. So that's how I would add a reverb to a bus of tracks as opposed to using a reverb to individual tracks, which you really shouldn't do because it's just going to become a big mess. You want everybody to share the same atmosphere you're in. So think about using, and we're not even getting into reverbs or delays or anything like this. Just a little tip. I mean, today's main topic is organization, preparation, organization of the session before you actually start recording so that you can be the most creative. And I'm just giving you a little idea of, how a bus is used and stuff like that. But just a few little tips here and there on those types of things. So the buses, we're using things and trying not to over run our computer's processor with too many effects going. So we want to share effects. Oh, that was the point I was trying to make. So here's the tip when using reverbs. Imagine the reverb is the room that you want to house everybody to be playing in. So if it's an auditorium, you want to make sure that everybody is in the same room playing. Because if you have a auditorium reverb and everybody's in there playing, and you have a guitar player who's in a drier room, then it's going to sound like he's in a different place than the other instruments are at. So that's why it's important to have not add them directly to your tracks, but to group them and send them to a shared room. That way everything sounds cohesive and doesn't sound out of place. So that's my tip on reverbs. Just think of them as rooms and how you're placing people. It's like going to a concert and you're at a music hall and a band is playing at the music hall, and the hall is very loud because there's a lot of reverb going on in the hall. There's a lot of bouncing around because it's a lot of walls and floors and ceilings, but there's not a lot of absorption going on, like curtains or chairs or anything like that. So you're going to hear a lot of stuff bouncing around. So the reverb is a natural reverb, right? But you're at the concert and you're watching it, and all of a sudden, the guitar player is playing, but you don't see him, or you see him, but he sounds like he's not in the same room. Like he sounds like he's in another room. It's because they're not sharing the same room reverb. Um, and that's what it would look like. It would look like you hear the guitar player, but it doesn't sound like he's in the room that you're in because he's not. So yeah, set up the rooms that you want to have your um, reverb, have an overall performance area that you want to be your main reverb, and then have other reverbs to do a certain function for the instrumentation that you're laying out. So, just a quick reverb tip of the day. Nothing to uh, go crazy about. Just a small little tip. We'll be getting in more depth and detail about how to use reverb, how to use delay, how to use some of the different effects and plugins in Studio One and any other DAW that you're using um, over the course of this um, Studio One course, this weekly course. So, yeah, that about does it for this 2 hour studio session. We didn't have a lot of people in today because that's a Friday. People are out doing their things on Fridays. I get that. But it doesn't matter if it's live or not. Um, the content is here, so you guys can refer back to it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Again, about 80% of you guys don't actually subscribe to the channel, but you do view the channel. So just hit the subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't take any time, and it's not going to change anything on your channel. You're not going to see me more or less often than you would if you didn't subscribe. Um, you'll just be notified whenever something new comes out. So I think that's important. And if you already are a subscriber, please hit that like button. And if you aren't a subscriber, hit that like button. It pushes this out to the algorithm so that it knows that you guys like this material, and it will think that other people like you might like this material as well. So they will push it out to them just in case they didn't get a chance to see it because they're not subscribed yet or they don't know about the channel. So definitely hit that like button and leave me some comments. If there's anything in this today's session that you have questions about, leave them in the comments or shoot me an email at area67music@gmail.com. Until next time, peace out.